If you've ever had freshly made pork rinds or chicharrones from a restaurant, you know that they are levels above anything you can buy in a package. They're fresh, don't taste like rancid oil, and they come out snapping and popping just like you poured yourself a bowl of Rice Krispies. So how do we go from here to here? Well, it's not as labor intensive as you might think. It just requires some time. But this crunchy low carb option is worth it. To make crunchy, airy pork rinds, you need pork skin. You can find pork skin with all of the fat mechanically removed from it from many Asian markets or Mexican markets. I'll also have some online sources listed down below for you in the description box. Another option is to get pork belly with the skin on and just cut it off yourself. Sometimes this is easier to find locally, but it does require an extra step of removing the skin from the fat and muscle, which is what I'm going to show you today because it's important to know how to do it correctly, or else you're going to end up with pork rinds that don't puff up and get crunchy. The key to getting these puffy, crunchy pork rinds is to remove all of the fat from the skin. I'm using these pieces of skin-on pork belly that I got from Wild Fork. To remove the skin from the pork belly, I found it easiest to take a pair of sharp kitchen shears and cut along the skin. The skin's pretty tough, so it will be hard to cut through, so try and cut as close as possible to the skin. You'll see here that we still left behind a thin layer of fat. Don't worry, I'll show you how to get rid of that in just a few minutes. Another reason why I chose skin-on pork belly is because I want to use the leftover pork belly to make pork belly bites in the air fryer. It's one of my husband's favorite recipes, and it's something that he requests all the time whenever we're entertaining because everyone loves them. Now that the skin is separated, you can cut these strips into smaller bite-sized pieces. I'm using kitchen scissors again, but a sharp knife works too. You don't have to be too uniform with your cuts. I like to have different sizes like small, medium, and large just because that's what you find in a bag of pork rinds. Now that you have all your pieces, it's time for a critical step to make crunchy pork rinds that won't break your teeth, plus it will help us get rid of some of that fat that's left on there. In a large pot of water, add a few teaspoons of salt, then the pork skins. While it cooks, just stir it occasionally. Boiling the pork skins helps to break down the collagen in the skin to help soften them. You'll notice that some of the fat starts to melt off too. After about 30 minutes of boiling, strain off the water from your pork skins. Once they're cool enough to handle, you can scrape off any of the remaining fat from each piece. It's much easier to remove the fat after they've been boiled. I use a knife to help peel the fat off. You don't have to get too meticulous with this. A little bit of fat isn't gonna ruin your pork rinds. Sometimes it makes it a little bit softer underneath, which I kinda like. And it adds a little bit of flavor too. Next, spread the skins on a parchment or foil-lined baking tray and season them with salt. You can use other seasonings here too, barbecue, chili lime, salt and vinegar. Then bake these in a 200-degree oven for 4 hours. The low heat for a long period of time will help dry them out, and plus it's gonna melt off some more of that fat. This is actually a stopping point at this recipe too. Once all of your pieces are dried and baked, you can store them in an airtight container and keep it in your fridge. Then when you wanna have pork rinds, just pull them out and fry them. To finish the pork rinds, we're gonna fry these in oil. You need to use an oil with a high smoke point. I'm using avocado oil because we can heat it up to 350 degrees, but an excellent idea is to render some of that fat from the leftover pork belly. However, this takes several hours because you have to render it slowly over low heat, and my husband didn't really want the house smelling like pig.
You mean pig?
That too. Once the oil is hot enough, carefully drop some of the pork skins into the oil and stir it around so they don't stick to each other. They're gonna start to pop like popcorn pretty quickly, so let them cook in the oil for around 2 to 3 minutes just to make sure they all get fried all the way through. It might look like they're cooked after about 30 seconds, but undercooking them can cause them to deflate and be a little bit too soft. You can season them again if they need more seasoning at this point. These homemade pork rinds are well loved by everybody at any gathering, just like my spicy pork belly bites. If you wanna see how to make those, click right here.